In the scene, there have been a lot of people who've passed away. We mourn and we're saddened by the losses of the people in our community. When it happens, we express our remorses, and we put on our Facebook pages, "Rest in peace." But with the passing of Mex One, do people actually understand how big of a loss it is to our community, and what exactly or how much everything in our community may change? Everyone knows that I kind of beefed it with Mex a bit, and we beefed it more on like a philosophy tip. Yeah, a lot of people butted heads with Mex, but with Mex, we all share a similar heart, like a same heart. And the reason why it's been so tough, the day that I found out last week that Mex passed away, it shocked me. It shocked me a lot, and it was kind of surprising how much it really affected me, that I kept thinking about it, and I was wondering why it bothered me that much. Like, why did it have such a big effect on me, because we weren't like the best of friends, but we were cool. I realized it's because of exactly what Mex stood for. When you think about what Mex did in our community, which a lot of people may not really know, Mex actually was the first one to really promote that b-boying is a culture and it's a community. He was the first one to really promote that, when he was with Bboy World, and he brought out Biggest and Baddest. That is what Biggest and Baddest, the brand, represented, that we're a community and we're a culture, and before that we never really said that. It didn't mean that we weren't a community, it didn't mean that we weren't a culture, but we were like, yeah, we just did what we did. Like, we were like, there's another crew, we battle, we go over here, we battle. We didn't look at everything together as some kind of movement, as some kind of culture. But as it started spreading, we started saying, yeah, you know what, this is a culture, this is a community. The only difference that me and Mex had, where I thought that everybody, doesn't matter what approach it is in breaking, is part of the community, is part of the culture. And that was the only difference, you know what I mean? Like, but we agree on the major things. Of course we disagreed on certain things, like for example the hour system. We agreed a lot on it. Actually did agree a lot. He agreed on 4 out of the five angles of breaking, the 5 perspectives, or categories. The only thing he didn't agree with was dynamics, but still, that's 4 out of 5 that he agreed with. We were like, we've had like our differences, but there was one time that me and Mex actually really saw eye to eye at one point, where I actually looked at him and said, we looked at each other and we said, okay, you know what, we're on the same page. And that was at IBE. We were both put on a panel discussion, and the panel discussion was called, do we need a system? On that panel discussion, like, you would think that all the people on that panel, that me and Mex were gonna argue and we were gonna have a huge heated debate, but we actually agreed on a lot of the things that, like pretty much, we didn't really argue that much at all on that panel. But there was one point where I was talking about something about what is our gripes about the culture, and I said, one of the things that really, that irks me, deep down inside it bothers me, is when I see, b-boys rocking clothing brands that have nothing to do with our culture, that don't care about our culture, don't put anything into our culture. They're not even from our culture, but b-boys are just rocking it, and they're putting their money into something that has nothing to do with our community and nothing to do with our culture. Like, when I see this, everyone wearing this one brand, and Mex yelled over, yo, say it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to say it. And he's like, just say it. And I'm like, no. He's like, yo, come on, just say it. And I was like, Stussy. And then he was like, exactly. And that's, at that moment, I looked over at Mex, and we saw him, we looked in each other's eyes, and then that was the first time that I was like, you know what? We're exactly on the same page. And since then, we've at that one moment, we've been all right. We've been pretty cool about things, like we joke around a bit back and forth, and he even invited me to judge Outbreak Europe. And when at Outbreak Europe, we judged together right at the Rep Your Country, and we both literally voted the same way the entire event, except for one where he called a tie, and I voted one way. And he said, you know what, if he voted, he would have voted the same direction. But that was the only time the entire battle, even battles that I thought that we were gonna vote separate, like thought France won, voted for France. I thought he was gonna vote the other way, and we both kept voting the same way the entire jam. And I remember he said to me, oh, this is your first outbreak Europe, what do you think? And I was like, yo, this is awesome, this is amazing, it's everything that I thought it would be, you know. And since then we've been cool, you know. So I guess this is the reason, you know, I've always had kind of like a wall, a little bit of a wall up with him, you know, like, you know, we're cool, but, and I regret that actually. I regret not, you know, trying to like go deeper, you know, but I've always felt like we understand each other because we share a similar passion for the community, about being activists and wanting to see a change, wanting to protect the community, wanting to protect the culture. And so when I found out that he passed away, it bothered me that much, you know, I mean, so much, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I realized, because when I tried to relate to him, to see, like, you know, like following, like, you know, what he's been going through, man, I can see how much it would hurt, you know, when a man loses everything, you know. Or I'm not really sure everything that he's been going through, but just, and you know, and I can't speculate on everything, but I can see how hard it is, you know, like living the hustle of this culture, the struggles and pains of being in a culture like this that's so beautiful. We pay a heavy price for not being able to make a good living, not being able to support our families, you know, as well, or the things that we have to do in order to make ends meet, the hustle that we have to do in order to, like, you know, survive from b-boying, from breaking, from doing what we do. And so seeing someone like Mex, who, you know, was very successful in so many things, you know, for example, creating the first brand, you know, for the community, by the community, was Biggest and Baddest. You know, before them, there were people who put out shirts, b-boy related outfits, but he was the first one that where he really branded it and marketed it, and was able to say, hey, this is what it stands for the community, by the community. And it was the most successful brand I saw, you know. And I'm not sure what happened there, whether it was bad business decisions on his end or what it was, but yeah, like a lot of the culture moved on, stopped supporting the Biggest and Baddest brand. Like, there are a lot of people who still support it, but not like it used to be. And they moved on to wear things like Stussy, you know, Supreme, things that have nothing to do with the culture. And seeing how his brand started to die down, and then seeing like how his event Outbreak was one of the last but best and biggest events, which I never got to go to in the US. And then seeing how, I'm just assuming that that kind of event like that he had, like I heard that he never paid people less than what they asked for. And so I'm assuming that all the b-boys that he brought and paid them for Outbreak, I'm assuming that came out of the money he made from Biggest and Baddest, from his clothing brand. So his clothing brand, he would sponsor Outbreak, you know, and then later on no longer having Outbreak, and his brand going down. And then, of course, as everyone knows how much he really loved his son, you know, even I knew. Of course, I followed him on Facebook. We followed each other. We're even friends on Facebook. And seeing how much he loved his son, and then one of his last posts was dealing with like the possibility of losing his son. Oh my goodness, like how much that, taking all these things into consideration and seeing how much that can break a man's heart. You know what I mean? And me gonna be a father soon, and realizing all the things that he's going through, feeling what he's going through. You know, for me, losing R16, no longer being around anymore, you know what I mean? Gonna be a father, can't just, you're gonna have to provide for your family one day. You know, you're gonna have to provide, like if you're like that kind of man. Now that Mex has gone, the saddest thing that you can think about the entire thing is, like, what now? Like, who else is gonna push that way of thinking? You know what I mean? Like, he was the number one person that stood up for that, saying this is a community, this culture. Although radical, although a bit extreme, we as a culture need extreme people, you know, to push values, to say, and then if they're too extreme, at least we as a community can see the line and say, okay, wait, we agree with this value, but it's too much. Now that Mex is gone, who's gonna be that person to push how much of this is a culture and community, you know what I mean, and traditions and all these kind of things? And it's scary, right? Because it's scary, like, you know, like, who else is gonna do that now? You know, will we as a community stop saying, you know what, this is a community, this is a culture, who else is gonna say that and do that? Because most b-boys are busy with just two things. One, b-boying, breaking your skills, right? And that makes sense. And the second thing is about making a living. Those are the two things. But how many people out there are activists? B-boys are actually activists that have a vision for our community and are willing to give up what they love, give up their skills, give up their dancing in order to pursue a way to lead the community in a safe way, you know? Instead of just yelling online and saying, oh, this, that, but actually will take the time to put on an event, take the time to spread a message, you know, take the time to do little initiatives and stuff like that that will, you know, unite the culture or unite the community and protect the culture and also build an industry. Mex was like, yeah, like I saw big changes in him as well, you know what I mean? He was a little bit more accepting towards, you know, other people. Like I saw him put a post about how awesome Pocket was with his skills and recognizing that, you know, and he you know, before saying that b-boying is not a sport, but later helping with, you know, BC1, commentating on it in a very sports-like way. In the end, I think we've all come to an agreement and we see eye to eye that, yeah, you know, we need to unite the community, we need to protect the culture, and we need to build an industry, and we agree on that. But now, who's left to do it? And those are my final thoughts, and I hope that other people, you know, will stand up for that. Will stand up for like those, not just what Mex stood up for, you know, but also like just taking, you know, like for example, like supporting something, like, you know, like supporting b-boy brands. You know, what you wear on your shirt, what you wear on your shirt is a form of support and advertising. When you support things like Stussy and support Supreme, you're supporting their brand and what they're pushing. And if they're not supporting you, then why are you supporting them? You know what I mean? Like, why? You know, because of fashion, right? Yeah, maybe because of fashion, but you got to understand how much money they have and how much money they put into marketing and making you think that their clothes are cool. You know, why are b-boys trying to look like skaters if you're not a skater? And you know, and the reason why skaters are doing good is because they have an industry. You know, they have a culture. You know, they have clothing brands that have an invested interest that skating will become a healthy community and culture, because a healthy skating community and healthy culture means a healthy business, skating business. But what about b-boys? And one of the last brands that really, you know, meant something was, and pushed the message, was Biggest and Baddest. So, you know, I hope that like other brands will pop up, or I hope that like Biggest and Baddest will continue to move on. And those are my final thoughts on that, you know. So it's crazy because the moment that happened, some longtime rivals of Mex hit me up and was just like, yo, is this for real? Did this really happen? And I even heard like, you know, like heard those people cry, you know what I mean? Like that's how much our community really does matter. And the last thing that I realized is that, like, you know what, we are all part of the same thing together, and you know, it's too much to like not settle our differences and settle our beefs and try to do things together. It's too much. Like we're too small but too big. Too big meaning like we're worldwide. B-boying for a poor culture that struggles and has no money and nothing, for how big we are worldwide, you know, but how small we are, meaning how we all know each other. Like it's too much. We need to like, you know, like put our differences aside, and I regret not trying to like, you know, work it out and stuff like that with Mex, and I'm pretty sure all other people are the same. And so, you know, I hope that we can all do that with each other, you know what I mean, and come together and, you know, and allow his legacy to live on. And that's all I gotta say.